Well, first of all, thank you very much for the warm welcome and the kind words. It's a real pleasure to be with you this morning. I vividly remember some of the previous meetings we had in Montreal and at other Canadian locations. I remember the starting period of this international labs, and I was updated, of course, by Katrin in regular intervals. I think we all agree the world is in motion these days. There's all kinds of geopolitical challenges in some of our countries. That certainly includes Germany. The economy is in deep trouble. We have the Trump administration in the US, which comes up with almost daily surprises. I deliberately didn't change this title. This is the title of a presentation which I gave at Cold Spring Harbor this weekend, where we met with 30 distinguished colleagues from the US to address the question, how can we save cancer research in the United States, something which appeared to be totally unimaginable until very recently. But despite all this trouble, we should not forget one thing, and that is, first of all, science and innovation has been never as exciting as today. I think we hear many examples from this symposium as well, and they are absolutely essential to shape a sustainable future. So what we do is really critical in many, many respects. What I'd like to do in the next few minutes is give you a brief update about recent developments in the Helmholtz Association, and then, of course, focus a little bit on the importance of our many interactions with Canadian institutions. Now, as most of you remember, the Helmholtz Association is one of the non-university research organizations in Germany. We basically built on one major pillar, and these are 18 national labs who are members of the organization. The Research Center Jülich, Katrin's home, is one prominent example. All of these centers have a certain critical mass. They are highly interdisciplinary in nature. Some of the domains we develop real exquisite high-end research infrastructure, and we all share one major privilege. That's long-term institutional funding, which we receive from the federal government of Germany and from the states, which brings us into a position where we can and must address some of the real grand challenges for research and society in a long-term interdisciplinary type of approach. We focus our efforts, and this is quite substantial, with something like 47,000 people at our centers and a budget of 6.5 billion euros this year. We focus our efforts on 6 challenging research fields. The first one is energy research, an obvious the task to be solved for many of our societies. Number 2 is research into Earth system, Earth environment, and climate. Number 3 is health. 5 of the centers are active in biomedical research. Number 4 is air and space and transportation. The German Aerospace Center is a prominent member of the organization, and this field is really about mobility at all scales. Structure and origin of matter is number 5. This is very fundamental physics, particle physics, astrophysics, hadron physics, with real high-end research facilities and infrastructures. And last but not least, and of increasing importance, one of the research fields focuses on information science, both information technologies all the way up to exascale and quantum computing, but also information processing. And what we try to achieve in this organization is really exploit all the brain power and the interdisciplinarity which we have to target ambitious, high-impact projects. We should not simply duplicate what partners from universities or other institutions are doing. I think we should really build on this unique transdisciplinary strengths which the organization have. There is a very impressive portfolio of ambitious, high-impact projects in all the domains. A few examples are listed here for each of the fields. As you can see on the right side, increasingly, many of these high-impact initiatives rely on information and data science. The Human Brain Project, one of Katrin's major achievements, is of course one example for this, but there is many others from quite a number of domains, including a number of ambitious foundation models, which we have started to support in order to exploit generative AI. Now, it's no surprise that an organization like ours must have a vivid interest to rely on interactions with strong partners. And for identifying partners, we have a very simple philosophy: try to find the best ones, which we can identify. Often these are national partners. We are very closely cooperating with German universities, for instance, but often they are international. And this strategy includes both partners from academia, increasingly also partners from industry, because the long-term goal must be to contribute to solutions for some of these grand challenges. Now, we heavily rely on international cooperations. There's many figures to highlight this. I think there's probably thousands of bilateral cooperations now between laboratories from the Helmholtz Association and partners from all over the world. We have more than 10,000 international scientists at our centers, and the number is continuously growing. These research infrastructures which we operate, be it accelerators in physics, research vessels, satellites, high-performance computing, are real magnets for international communities. That's one of the reasons why I like them very much. We have a number of focus countries, the US, of course, the European Union. We're a member of the European Union, but also countries like Canada, Japan, or Australia. We have 3 international offices, one in Brussels for obvious reasons, another one in Beijing. I personally feel that China is and will be an important strategic partner for us in many of our research fields. And we have an office in Tel Aviv because we entertain very close relationships with partners from Israel, many of which are particularly rewarding. Now, in order to promote international interactions, we have introduced a number of funding programs and instruments. These include Helmholtz International Labs, that is the opening of a Helmholtz sort of presence at a complementary foreign institution. HIBALL is a prominent example for such an international lab. We have 10 of those. Another very interesting tool, in my view, are Helmholtz International Research Schools, building on a very simple idea. A Helmholtz Center and a center in Canada join forces to train the next generation of PhD students in a certain target area, highly successful. The students make sure that the labs start to interact, and as we all know, relationships which you develop at a young age are often maintained throughout the lifetime. And a real prototype for such an international laboratory is certainly the Helmholtz International BigBrain Analytics and Learning Lab, HIBALL. It builds on a truly complementary partnership and alliance between the center in Jülich and the MNI in Montreal. It really delivers world-class research at the interface between two fascinating disciplines, that's neuroscience and information and data science. It's truly impressive what has been achieved during the last couple of years, not only in terms of figures of publications and peer-reviewed contributions, but also real progress in this fascinating area of research. I think it's a major contributor to other international activities such as BigBrain, or the Human Brain Project and eBrains community in Europe. I think it's an important platform where people meet, exchange, and intensify their communication. It's an example for an international lab, which of course benefits a lot from superb leadership. This is an essential element for every successful international lab by Katrin and Alan Evans. I'm a big supporter of ambitious transdisciplinary projects at the interface, and this here is an example. Interface between neuroscience or biomedical on one hand and high-end computer science and information and data on the other. This is an opportunity which we do not exploit sufficiently, in my view, but this interface research is absolutely fascinating and opens entirely new doors. It's also an example for smart application of information and data science. Katrin mentioned this briefly. Indeed, in the Helmholtz Association, we put a lot of effort on this area of information and data science because we are probably the organization in Europe which generates the largest amount of big data. And one of the obvious challenges is how can we extract new information from these incredibly valuable data sets, exploiting technology platforms which have been established in this setting, new training paradigms, and new ambitious projects like foundation models. Now, HIBALL is a prototype of our interactions and cooperations with Canada, but it's not the only example, and it has actually promoted other activities as well. We have another international lab which Fabian Theis and Joshua Benjo are championing, that is the Helmholtz Center in Munich and your famous Mila Institute. That is also a very nice example of a dynamic interaction. We have opened a couple of years ago one of our international Helmholtz research schools based on a competitive procedure in the diabetes space. That is the Alberta Diabetes Institute and colleagues from Munich. A prominent scientist from UBC in Vancouver, Joseph Penninger, has recently moved from Vancouver to Braunschweig as head of our Center for Infection Research. So there is new activities in that space. There's a long-standing relationship between the German Cancer Research Center and Princess Margaret in Toronto. We have recently established an exchange and mobility program for PhD students in information and data science with NRC. And I have regular exchange with CFAR, NRC, and your MITEX organization. So there's a rather rich network of interactions. And as I said in the beginning, we meet at a time where the world is really in motion and research and development are suddenly under attack in countries we would never imagine, such as the US. This is of big concern to us because as scientists in general and as Helmholtz scientists in particular, we strongly rely on international partnerships, friendships, and cooperations for a simple reason. Virtually any field we do research in is of global importance and requires global activities. This certainly relates to brain research, information and data science. We are intensely connected. Statistics tell us that as many as 40% of the publications in the Helmholtz environment are with transatlantic partners, particularly partners from the US. I'm very much concerned about these developments in the United States because any restriction of research in the US has a major sort of negative impact on us as well. And this is why we try everything to maintain our interactions and make sure that these connections do not break. On the other hand, this is of course also a time where we must consider stronger interactions with other partners, such as Canada. I think with Canada, this is a unique opportunity because we can build on quite a tradition now of successful partnerships, and we are certainly committed to open new ones. This is a matter of the discussion we have with some of your institutions. We should also do this because of course, at the international scale, competitors do not wait. Our major competitor will be China in the long run, I'm absolutely certain. So we better get our skills organized. So what can we do? This is my final slide to further promote these cooperations. I think the most important thing is to make sure that people meet in the right combination at the right period of time, because they make all the difference and come up with interesting ideas. And this is why such workshops are so critical and important. And we should intensify this kind of communication, also any kind of exchange between junior scientists in particular. In the case of HIBALL, the question is, of course, how could we achieve possibilities to provide long-term support? I think the Helmholtz program is a 5-year sort of funding program, although I have to say that the partners have committed to maintain this after the 5 years. And there is certainly one opportunity which I would recommend to pursue now, and this is, of course, this new association status of Canada with the Horizon Europe, European framework programs. It's still early days for that relationship. I know that they are very much interested in receiving challenging, interesting applications. I talked about this to Katrin already. I would strongly recommend pursue this avenue and try to turn this into a pilot for this new relationship between Canada and Horizon Europe. With this, let me thank you all once again for turning this into a success. Thank you all for all your commitment and for the fantastic science you have jointly generated here. And let me also end by pointing out once again, for research and development, the future is bright. Just let's keep going. Thanks.